Disadvantages, I'd probably have to say battery life. But I feel like that's a minor thing. I mean, all of us with our cell phones, we recharge them almost on a daily basis and right before we go to bed or anything like that. So it shouldn't be that difficult. There is a possibility that the e-reader may break. The memory may be damaged. Those books that you've had in that e-reader or mechanical device would be erased, and I think that's an awful waste. But in all honesty, I think if a person takes some necessary precautions to taking care of their e-readers or, well, electronic books, then I don't think it has many disadvantages, in all honesty.
Disadvantages for me, like I said, it gets hard to go back to things that you've marked. I haven't found really a good app I like that makes it easy to see what you've highlighted, whereas flipping through a book, it's just easy to see everything right in front of you. And I think it's also hard with using your finger to go back and forth, like on a screen that isn't always receptive to like your touch. That gets annoying too. And why should going back to what you've already done be frustrating? I think that's the biggest disadvantage.
Definitely losing track. Space is a major issue. None of us can just put things into any kind of space and just make sure or kind of feel that, yeah, I won't need this area anymore. There's definitely a question of that. Also, if you're like me and scribble all too much in a book, it looks really messy in the end, and that may be a big problem. Otherwise, print textbooks, very fond of them. Unless you're carrying a lot of them at a time, then it's a hassle. And I've done that one too many times in my college career. I know that.
I think soon one of the biggest disadvantages is going to be that they're going to become obsolete. So them disappearing, I think, is their biggest disadvantage because then we can't use them. But I think also, like I mentioned, price is a huge disadvantage. When you're paying $120 for a used math book, I think that's unfair. It doesn't make sense. So I think that's a disadvantage. I think that coming out with new editions every semester and charging new prices is crazy, and that's a disadvantage for students because students aren't going to want to buy your textbooks if you're jacking up the price every semester. So you can't buy a book from a friend who already took the class for a cheap price because the teacher wants you to get the new edition. I think that's a disadvantage. I think weight can be a disadvantage. If you can't fit a book in your backpack, you're going to be less inclined to bring it to the library. And I know that sounds crazy, but I've done that. This is too heavy, I don't want to carry it. I think a lot of times also, we don't look at our textbooks for the whole semester until the final or the midterm, and then we wonder why we spent the money on it. So if you could just get it on a Kindle for like $20 instead of $120, you might be more, you might come to terms a little bit better that you never used it until this moment because it didn't cost you $120.